inside of the lip, just in case they lose the ear tags and lose the radio collar, we still want to be able to identify them. Now, the cool thing about this is we bought this professional tattoo gun, like you would go to get a tattoo at a tattoo parlor, right? But it was like really cumbersome and everything. So then we developed our own tattoo gun out of a Crest Spin Brush toothbrush. Right there. So that's what we use to tattoo these guys. Don't get any ideas. And then, you know, who would have thought back when I was in high school that I was going to be holding black bears? But, you know, there I am holding some black bears, and this is a monster black bear that we captured in one of these traps. This is a black bear just right down here in southern New York. And then we work with a great crew of veterinarians that come out with us every once in a while to help with training. And then we also get to go out into their dens in the spring, which is always fun, right? Who doesn't love a cute little black bear cub? Aren't they so cute? So we go out there, it's hard to see here, but this is another dart gun. We go out and we dart these bears. And here's, you know, a embarrassing picture of Nolan and Colin holding a cute little bear cub. So bring my kids out and try to do some of the fun stuff with them. Okay, so I want to briefly, I mentioned math. I want to briefly tell you a little bit about math. This is one of the basic models that I use is called capture-recapture. And capture-recapture allows us to estimate how many animals there are. So how do we estimate how many there is, right? We would go out and we count something. But do you think we can actually count how many black bears exist in the state of New York? Is that possible? No. Why is it not possible? Yeah, there's a lot of different habitats. They may be hiding. You might not be able to find them all the time. So basically, we need to develop a model that allows us to count them, but also to estimate the number that we're not capturing, right? And so here's a simple model, which says we want to estimate this thing, the abundance of these guys, and we count some, but we need to estimate this, which is the probability of detecting or capturing an animal. What's the probability that we can actually do this? Of course, it depends on the method that we're using, but it's a simple model, right? Now, this is a little bit more complex, and actually the formula is cut off, but it doesn't matter, because you probably wouldn't care, you wouldn't be focusing on that formula anyway, is my guess. But the cool thing is, that I want to point out, is that we use math, but the math that we use is really intuitive math. It doesn't look like it, maybe. But basically, if you can understand how an animal behaves, if you can understand something about how an animal moves, and about your probability of capturing an animal in a trap, you can develop a model to try to estimate that, right? And so basically, this complex formula that you don't even see all of is depicted here, which says the probability of capturing an individual with a home range center S at trap X is a function of the distance between the home range center and the trap. And what this is saying is, if you were to put a trap exactly at the home range center, your probability of capturing that animal is really high, right? If you put the trap right in the middle of its home range, it's probably likely you're going to capture it. But as you put a trap farther and farther away from the home range, it's less and less likely that you're going to capture it. So the probability of your detecting it declines. So these are the kinds of models that we can develop that might seem like complex math, but it's actually just intuitive, and it's based on our understanding of how species work. And we can develop a density model that basically says, okay, we don't know where the home ranges are, but we can develop a model, which is what we call a spatial point process model, to actually estimate where they are. And then there's a lot of technologies that we can use to get these encounter history data. We can use dogs that are trained to sniff out the scats. Anyone heard of scat detection dogs? Yeah. The dogs that are trained specifically to find the poop of a particular species. I hire dogs to do my work, basically. So it's a really cool approach. We can identify Indian bears, we can identify jaguars, we can camera traps, we can put gun brushes out, we can collect DNA, and we can extract the DNA and identify individuals that way. Here's the scat detection dog here. Here's its nose sniffing out the scat. We extract the DNA. We can identify which individual it is. We can apply these spatial capture-recapture models. We can estimate how many there are. We do this on moose up in the Adirondacks. I hired Max and Scooby and Samson. They're the dogs there, as well as their handlers. They came out from Washington State. They went up to the Adirondacks last summer. They're going to be back up there this summer, and they're helping me to estimate how many moose are in the Adirondacks. We have a citizen science approach, so another way of collecting data using people like you. And so if anyone is interested in getting involved in this, you can download on Google Play or on the App Store, I See Mammals. It's a way to allow folks like you to be involved in the kind of research that I do. And so if you were to do this, it'd really help out our management of black bears in the state of New York. Okay, a little camera trap selfies here.
Is that you, Mr. Bear?
They're always get cool photos. This is an Andean bear nose.
Huh.
Okay, this is a woman walking her horse in the middle of the forest for some reason in the winter and letting her horse sniff a big rotten pile of beaver meat. Just random things that are out here looking through these things, you're like, this is the Wildlife Gone Wild collection. A lot of things happen in front of the camera trap that you wouldn't imagine would happen in front of the camera trap, but they do. Especially raccoons are crazy.
Is that a Fisher trap that you're trying to?
Yeah, this is a Fisher trap.
Yeah.
So this is beaver meat here. We've got gun brushes set up here. We want fishers to go up it, so we catch a lot of raccoons. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to briefly tell you a couple of the other cool things I do, but just by kind of scanning through and just telling you the other things. This is a cool study that I have in Ecuador, developing a wildlife corridor for the endangered Andean bear. There's a lot of cool species that we get on these camera traps, a lot of cool bird species that we get on these. We get to study all of these by using these camera traps. So what do we do with the camera traps? We identify the individual Andean bears. They have distinctive patterns on their faces, so we can tell which one is which by their facial markings. We apply the spatial capture-recapture models, do some math here, and then we can develop models of how these individuals are moving through the landscape. We get cool things like pumas. Anyone know what this is down here? I'd be surprised if anyone knows what this is. If you do, I'll give you a prize. Who knows what that is? What's that? What is it?
An antler. What about a fossil?
Close. No? No takers?
Or married organism.
If I guess, do I get?
It's a tyra. Has anyone heard of a tyra? That was my next guess. That was your next guess, I figured. It's a tyra. So we get all these like really wild species in Ecuador. Jaguarucos and all these spotted cats. Okay, we publish a lot of papers, but important for me is not publishing all the papers, which I kind of have to do because I work at a university, and we need to get research out and other people to read it. But important to me is the work that I do changes the way species are managed. So all of these examples here are a result of my research. So basically changing the way agencies manage wildlife populations. So new fall season structure, this is because I did work with the BBC. This campaign, let young bucks grow and go and watch them grow. This is a result of work I did with the BBC. Fisher management plan, changing the way that they manage fishers, again, part of the work that I did. Developing the ecological corridor, developing the New York State Wildlife Action Plan, the result of work that I did. So it's important that the work that I do is applied. And I get to travel to some cool places. As a result of my work, I traveled to 30 different US states and 7 countries, just presenting talks and results of my work. So if you like this kind of thing, you get to travel a lot. Okay, I'll end on this, and then I'll open it up for questions. So why do I love what I do? Because we get to do outdoor field work. It's not kind of your everyday job, if you noticed. Not everyone gets to do the kind of cool stuff that I get to do. I get to do research, field work, lab work. I can do programming, GIS, statistics, apply math, do my science. So it's pretty diverse. So I'm never doing the same thing. Like I don't do the same thing every day. Every day I'm doing something different, which to me is really exciting. And I can study whatever I want, basically. And I do something that's meaningful and change the way that species are managed. So I'll open it up for questions to you guys. I do have a bunch more slides, but I'm going to stop there.
Where do you get most of your funding from to do your work?
To do all this?
Yeah.
So a lot of the funding comes from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Some of the funding comes from the U.S. Geological Survey. Some of the money comes from National Science Foundation. Some of the money comes from like government, like in Ecuador, comes directly from the government there. So I spend a lot of time writing grants, right? So it's really expensive to do this kind of work. So you need to have good communication skills, and you need to be able to write proposals and have ideas for people to fund the kind of work that you do. So another little skill that you need to have. Okay, questions from the students. Someone has to have a question. Now? Well, how often do I get to do field work? So I have my graduate students now are the ones who are basically like in the field on a daily basis. And the thing about like going on for more and more education is that the longer you stay in school, probably the less likely it is that you're going to be outside, which is counter to why you originally get in it, right? You're like, oh, I want to be outside, I want to do this stuff. But I get out into the field. Well, let's see. 2 weeks ago, I was in Ecuador for a week. And let me show you a picture from there. So this is in Ecuador. This is with my graduate student, Vanessa, right here. Setting up this camera trap right here. So I was there for a week. And this is me in the field with Vanessa, like completely covered in mud after spending a day in the rain, walking through the jungle, basically. In 2 weeks, I'll be up in the Adirondacks working with my student Alec and these scat detection dogs. I'll be out in the field with my other student Kat, putting out barbed wire hair snares. So, you know, during the academic year, I'm teaching and writing grants and, you know, mentoring my students. And then when they're doing their field work, I get to go out and do fun stuff. So it's the best of both worlds. But the longer you stay in school, probably the less likely you are to be in the field all the time. But the kind of career that I do, there's jobs at all different levels. So you could be a wildlife technician with a bachelor's degree, and basically you just do all the fun stuff all the time. Or you continue going on to school, and then you design the questions and come up with the ideas and do the implementation, and still get to do the fun stuff. Yeah. What's that? So graduate students, about 6, and then undergraduates and technicians. And then I have students in my classes also, but I don't count those as my students because, so I had a class that I taught this semester and I had 40 students in that. But they're not the students that are doing my research. So I have the graduate students, and this is something I should tell you guys because most people don't know this. When you're a graduate student, you get paid to do your degree. You don't pay out money. You don't pay money to go do your master's or your PhD. We pay you to do the work. So that's something cool. So if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I could never go on to do that much school because it'd be so expensive, when you do these research-based degrees, you get paid to do it. Really cool. What's that? Yeah, it's definitely a growing profession. If you think about the world around you, environmental problems are just increasing, right? So more and more often you hear about environmental problems. Basically, that's what we deal with, are problems that are facing society, problems that are facing wildlife, problems that are facing landscapes and communities. And so how do you manage all of that? It's becoming increasingly complex to do that. So I think the number of jobs will just continue to increase. The most neat thing I found in the field? Unique? Oh boy, that's a good question. The most unique thing I found in the field. Well, I remember so I have a lot of stories about field work, like tons and tons of stories, but one thing that comes to mind that I remember just being like kind of like surprised by this was when I was doing my master's work, and we had these radio collars on the martins, and if a martin would die, I'd need to go back and retrieve the radio collar. And so I've tracked the martin to this area. It's in the winter and it's all snowy and everything. And it's at the base of this tree. And so I start digging and digging and digging to try to recover this radio collar. And as I'm digging in this hole for about half an hour through the snow, and then I get down to the leaves and the rocks, and then all of a sudden, this martin flew up at me from the hole, and then I just realized that basically I just excavated its whole winter hangout unintentionally, because I thought it was dead because it was there for so long. So things like that always happen where it's just like, wow, that was crazy. But a lot of kind of, that's a fieldwork story, but then there's always these kind of scientific discoveries that, just come up that we uncover by researching species, which are also neat.
Do you set up cameras and watch your students?
So you're wondering why I watched you, but I don't watch my students. Let's see. I have my eye on my students in different ways. They know I'm watching them all the time. No, I don't have cameras on my students. I know what they're doing, though, hopefully, most of the time. What are they doing when I'm not with them? Let's see. So right now, my student Alec, he's doing his master's degree. He's right now up in the Adirondacks. And right now he's setting up these sites, like flagging a bunch of sites and getting them ready for when the dogs come. And then the students are also, they take classes, like during the spring and fall semester. And they take classes in statistics, for example, or different modeling, mathematical approaches, or biology, and that kind of thing. And then my students also go to conferences and they give talks on the work that they're doing. So it's not always me giving the research talk. So basically, I want all of my students to be the ones that share their research with people and learn how to give talks and communicate with different kinds of audiences. Other questions? Okay, so one more slide. Oh, no, here, this is good. So this is my acknowledgement slide before I finish. So basically all the stuff that I do wouldn't be possible without all of the teachers and mentors, colleagues, and professors that I've had through the years. So right now, when you're in high school, you might not realize it, but your science teachers, your math teachers, or whatever you're interested in, all of these teachers are influential and important in what you're going to be doing. So I thank all of them. I have tons and tons and tons of field technicians that help me out. And then, of course, here's my graduate student, Pat, here. Here's some of my other students. And so, basically, they're the ones that allow me to do this type of work. And so my final thing is, doesn't matter if you're interested in wildlife ecology. Find out what you care about and make a career out of it. It doesn't have to be what I do, but be passionate about it, and then you'll be happy in whatever career you go into. So thanks everyone for coming. Nice audience. If you want to come up and feel any of these things up here, feel free. Especially pick up this moose antler. If you've never held a moose antler, come up and hold it.
Don't forget to give credits to Trey Tyler.